greedily at the ice in the freezer until he had licked all the frosting out of it, which gave him a tiny bit of satisfaction as he was dying of thirst. Then he took out an expired cookie and scraped off the moldy bits and spread it with expensive caviar. But that wasn't enough to fill him up. So he took the ornamental fish out of the tank and chopped it up into meatballs and swallowed it raw with beer. That's how he felt full. Nick was a top-notch robber who infiltrated a famous collector's house and ransacked the paintings without hesitation. But when he was about to leave, due to a teammate's mistake, he entered the wrong code and the security system immediately activated and all the doors in the room were instantly locked. He rushed to call his companions for support, but they only left a sentence, "Rely on your own," and then cut off the communication signal with Nick. In order to avoid attracting the police, Nick violently destroyed the system control panel and then cut off the alarm speakers, which made the system completely silent. But the most important thing right now is to escape. Nick came to the door and looked at the solid wood door. He had the idea to pick up the dagger and stabbed it once. Thirsty, he went to the kitchen, but when he turned on the faucet, the water was turned off. Then he opened the refrigerator, but there were only a few canned goods in there. So he continued to chisel at the door, but he didn't realize that there was a thick layer of steel behind the wood. He was so desperate that he lay down and prayed for a miracle. The next morning, Nick heard the sound of an airplane roaring outside his window, but he couldn't hear a thing outside the airtight room. Then he suddenly saw some stone artifacts. He picked up the stones, got up on the bed and threw them at the window. But the stones were deformed, but the glass was still intact. As Nick was at a loss, he suddenly saw the glass skylight above his head. If he could remove the glass, he would be able to escape. First, he dragged all the cabinets and tables that could be used to increase the distance under the skylight. Then he removed the ropes from the chairs. And fastened the tables and cabinets together. Finally, he reached the highest point, but he didn't realize that he was still a long way from the skylight. Nick had to take a short break. Then he saw on the TV monitor a girl eating a meal in the stairwell. It made him cry. If he didn't get out of here, he'd starve to death. So he went back into action and used the bronze statue to pry open the door to a locked room with all kinds of dog food and a huge steak. Suddenly he heard water running outside, which turned out to be the plant's fixed watering device. The problem of food and water was finally solved. At night, he suddenly saw the cleaner on the monitor cleaning the door. Nick was so happy that he hurriedly got dressed and went to the door.